You've got 30 days to relocate your livestock situation or we'll have you forcibly removed. That's what she said, right to my face, standing on the porch of my grandfather's ranch, a place that's been in my family since 1952. Picture this. I'm sipping my morning coffee, the honest scent of cattle and cut hay in the Texas air, when this woman, Karen Whitfield, comes strutting up, clinging to her clipboard like it's a holy relic. Bleached blonde hair unmoved by the wind, perfume strong enough to fumigate a barn. This wasn't just some neighborly check-in, this was war. And I'll tell you right now, if you've ever dealt with a nightmare HOA, you'll want to stick around for what comes next, because Karen had no idea who she was messing with. Let me back up a second. My name's Garrett Stone, and up until 6 months ago, I was living out the bureaucratic dream in Washington, D.C., senior policy advisor at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, racking up more coffee than sleep, writing the same regulations that HOAs all over America use and abuse. 15 years, endless hearings, more legal jargon than any sane person should ever hear. Then, out of nowhere, Grandpa Joe passes, leave me the Lazy G Ranch in Cedar Falls, Texas. 40 acres of real, old-school Texas with oil rights, which meant developers have been circling for years like buzzards. So, I traded my cubicle for this porch, my daily grind for actual cattle. And let me tell you, nothing beats the sunrise out here. That's when Karen rolled into my life. She moved down from Dallas with her sights set high. Bought herself a big shiny house in the new subdivision next door, Whispering Oaks Estates, they call it, though it's about as natural as plastic turf. Didn't take her 2 months to get herself crowned HOA president. And if you think that meant neighborhood barbecues and friendly get-togethers, think again. She hit the ground running, patrolling in yoga pants, doling out violations like candy. The first notice showed up on my door 3 months after I got here. Said my cattle were an agricultural nuisance. Yeah, like the smell of honest ranch work was somehow worse than whatever chemical storm she was wearing. At first, I tried to be neighborly. Figured, this is Texas. Maybe she's just confused, right? Invite her over for some sweet tea, set things straight. Big mistake. Next week, she's back with her cousin Dale from code enforcement. Both of them snapping photos of my manure pile, Grandpa's old tractor, even my chickens who seemed downright offended. Dale looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, but Karen? She was loving it. She kept hinting she'd find a way to force compliance, and that's when it hit me. This wasn't about misunderstandings. This was about leverage, and I'd spent a career writing the very rules she thought she could twist. 2 days later, I found a fat envelope taped to my door. Cease and desist, full of legalese signed by Whitfield and Associates. Which, as it turns out, is just Karen's kitchen table and a Costco printer. It demanded I shut down all agricultural operations, complete with a doctored map showing my land encroaching on HOA turf. The gall was almost impressive. Even more so, she summoned me to an emergency compliance hearing at the Whispering Oaks Country Club. A Thursday night, of course, right when any self-respecting rancher's having dinner. So I went. Why not? Sometimes you just got to see how deep the crazy goes. The meeting room stank of old money and stronger air freshener. 12 board members behind a long table. Me in a lone metal chair facing the Inquisition. Karen's up there in a navy blazer, PowerPoint at the ready, my manure pile labeled as a biological hazard, Grandpa's barn called a structural eyesore. Coffee so bad it could strip paint. When she started her speech about community covenants, I calmly asked to see the documents. You'd have thought I'd asked for nuclear launch codes. She hemmed and hawed. Requires legal review. Can't give out proprietary information. Like I wasn't sitting on land my family owned before half these people knew Texas existed. That's when I played my card, slid my HUD credentials across the table. 15 years writing housing regulations, I said. Maybe I can help you interpret your covenants. The room went dead silent, and Karen's smile wobbled like a jello mold in an earthquake. Little fact most folks don't know. Under federal law, HOAs have to provide those governing docs to any owner upon request. Denying them? That's discrimination. Then, a twist, one of the board members, Beverly Chun, raises her hand, voice shaky but kind. "Karen, didn't you say mister?" Stone was just a local rancher. Karen, trying to recover, just scoffs. "Anyone can print business cards, Beverly." But the damage was done. They weren't bad people, just misinformed, led by someone who'd been spinning stories since she moved in. Afterwards, Beverly found me outside. "Karen's been lying to us, mister." "Stone, about your ranch, the money, everything." She looked ready to bolt, but right then and there, I knew I had an ally. Turns out, Karen wasn't slowing down. Next thing I know, Dale's back with a clipboard, saying every fence, shed, and post needs new permits. Records long gone after a barn fire 20 years back. Then comes the Texas Environmental Commission, supposedly after a tip about groundwater contamination. Inspector spends hours. Everything checks out clean. Next day, it's the AG department, checking for diseased livestock. Vet just laughs. "My cows are healthier than the board members." It's death by 1,000 paper cuts, fees, inspections, threats. Not about rules. About making life miserable till you fold. I'd seen it before. Developers trying to push folks out with paperwork and pressure. That's when Beverly, shaking and pale, showed up with a stack of evidence, texts, emails, bank statements, showing this was all a setup. Karen was working with the developer, Sunset Holdings. She'd get $50,000 and first pick of new lots if she forced me to sell. The real kicker? Beverly had the HOA's formation documents, or rather, the lack thereof. No proper incorporation, no covenants filed. Nothing. The HOA, as it turned out, didn't even legally exist. Beverly just stared at me, stunned, as I explained. Every threat, every fine, every action they'd taken had zero legal standing. Karen had built her empire on sand. But it got worse. Dr. Martinez, the state vet, called to say Karen had filed bogus complaints all over Texas. Always rural land near developments. Always fabricated. This wasn't a power trip, it was a business model. She'd run the same scam in half a dozen counties. The night after, I sat in Grandpa's old chair, looking at the pile of evidence. Karen wasn't just trying to steal my ranch. She destroyed other families, too. So, I called in some favors. If Karen wanted to play federal games, she was about to meet the people who wrote the rules. Sure enough, Karen doubled down. Friday, Channel 7 News parked in my driveway. Karen staging her little media circus. Neighbors' kids in surgical masks. Karen waving her hands, blaming me for toxic waste. But the reporter, bless her, did some real digging. Talked to Pete Jameson and Rosa Martinez, folks who'd know my family forever. By noon, the story had flipped. Developer scam, not ranch pollution. That weekend, I filed every complaint I could. HUD for discrimination, the Real Estate Commission for fraud, FBI for wire fraud and conspiracy. Karen had crossed from nuisance to federal felon. Beverly got to work rallying the board. Within days, members were resigning, the rest demanding Karen's removal. She tried everything. False police reports, vandalism, even hired a PI to dig up dirt on me, who hilariously found my record clean except for a parking ticket. But the clincher came when my security cameras caught Karen spray painting health hazard on my fence, audio and all, her plotting with an accomplice. She tried to file more false police reports, but Sheriff Morrison, who'd known my family for decades, wasn't buying it. He watched the footage, shook his head, and told me, "Son, that woman's lost her damn mind." We went to work, Jim, Maria, Beverly, myself, gathering every shred of evidence. Court orders, bank freezes, the works. My lawyer, Jim Rodriguez, brought in the state AG and coordinated with the feds. We reached out to other victims. Beverly played her part brilliantly, recording everything, documenting every dime Karen stole. Over $127,000 in community funds gone to private investigators, fake legal docs, even the Christmas party fund. It all came to a head when Karen, desperate, hired actors to pose as federal agents, complete with fake badges and a shutdown order. But see, after 15 years at HUD, I know a real agent from a fake. My property was already under watch from actual federal investigators, and the whole circus was caught on tape. When Karen tried to force my cattle off the ranch, claiming federal law, Sheriff Morrison arrived with backup. The sight of squad cars sent her helpers scattering, but not Karen. She was arrested on the spot for conspiracy, impersonation, theft, and a whole shopping list of felonies. But she wasn't done. Out on bond, she threw a town hall at the community center, her victory lap, she called it. The place was packed, local media, neighbors, undercover agents. She strutted up on stage in her best suit, bragging about federal intervention. Beverly stood up and called her out for embezzlement. I stood, too, and laid out the evidence, bank records, text, video, the works. The crowd turned, and Karen's face went slack as the FBI stood up, read her rights, and led her away in cuffs. The aftermath? Sunset Holdings lost their contracts, declared bankruptcy. Every family Karen scammed got their money back, plus damages. Beverly was elected president of a real HOA, with proper bylaws and transparency. Community trust came back stronger than ever. My ranch, thriving. Cattle fat and happy, the land producing better than ever. I used the settlement to start a legal defense fund for folks facing HOA harassment, 30 families and counting, all protected now. And Karen? She's serving 15 to 20 years in federal prison. Wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy, RICO charges, you name it. Turns out, the government really hates it when someone tries to turn land theft into a business model. I sit here now, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise turn my land gold, and think about what Grandpa always said: sometimes you have to fight for what's right, but if you do it smart and honest, you'll usually win. Karen Whitfield learned that the hard way. But hey, don't just take my word for it. Drop a comment below if you've got your own HOA war stories. Maybe you'll realize you've got more rights than you think. And if you ever feel alone, remember, bullies count on silence, but when you speak up and stand your ground, you take away their power. Hit that subscribe and ring the bell, because there are more Karens out there, and I've got plenty more stories to tell. Remember, knowledge is power, and power applied right? That's justice. Until next time, folks, fight the good fight and never let anyone steal what's yours.